Welcome to Journey Now, a podcast about following Jesus that takes on serious issues without ever taking itself too seriously. Each week, the pastors, staff, and friends of Journey Church in Brentwood, Tennessee, gather to catch up, share life together, and laugh a little. Okay, a lot. Maybe too much. But along the way, they also explore what it really means to bring heaven to earth, share Jesus' hospitality, and live cross-shaped lives. Part Babel, part Bible, and occasionally even thoughtful and entertaining, this is Journey Now.
Runner-up. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, first of all, I call it third place, and then it's a podium. It's a podium.
All right, just so we know, everybody, we all know that Mike loves his calves, and so anytime I just want to make him feel better about himself.
There have been
Apparently, it's Justina too.
there have been comments.
Yeah, from your wife.
From my wife and others,
Right.
who are men.
Right.
By the way.
Your son.
Nope. I'm just saying I have great calf muscles.
Yeah.
And why would you light a lamp and put a bowl over it?
Yeah. No.
Right? So no jeans, right?
Right.
Shorts.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Yes, exactly right.
So Mike started out with saying.
Are we starting this podcast?
Yeah, we started somewhere in here. Hopefully
listen,
right now.
Welcome to
Here's what he
Journey Now
does.
podcast.
He just starts.
Yeah.
He just starts knowing the dumbness.
Yeah.
And just, okay, it's a rolling story. Yes. So can I tell it?
Yeah.
Can I tell it?
Yeah.
It's my story.
Yeah, it is your story.
All right. So Layla was complimenting me on my calf muscles this morning. She actually was not. But the calf muscles did come up in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I brought them up.
Normally do. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tim.
Yep.
And I had commented that one of the very few things I've accomplished in my life of note was that I came in third place at the best legs contest at Lexington High School. And I don't know out of how many, could have been out of 3.
Right.
And they instantly, you can imagine, dear listener, they instantly went, well, what happened to 1 and 2? For me, it's a podium win. It's a podium win. And frankly, Tim and Edwin, I can't come on anyone else's legs in this room.
Yeah.
Neither of you would have been on the podium.
Were 1 and 2 up there with you? Like, was there like a
lineup
of
all I
calf
remember.
Was this like a senior superlatives type of thing?
It was something like that. And so
That's very hazy.
very hazy?
Okay.
Did you have to do like get on your tippy toes?
Yeah. Hey, Brad.
I don't have to.
Dear Brad.
They come that way. Like they come like I've just done. So I squatted 500 pounds. They just show up like that. So yeah. So if they gave an award at Bible camp, okay, that was best calf muscles, I would have won that. My brother, however, won
If they
most
give an
Christ-like.
award for that at Bible camp, I think you should find a new camp.
Well, or 4-H camp. Best calves.
Okay.
Come on.
Oh
Midwest
my
joke.
God.
Agriculture.
Wow.
Yes.
I've been trying to think of a joke, and you just totally
He
won.
nailed it.
Yeah, you won.
He nailed it.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. So there's no Kevin Dixon today.
He's in Hawaii.
Nope. So
Wispy
Dixon.
Hawaii.
We have upgraded.
Yes.
Layla, and then say the name.
Say what name?
Say your last name.
Shahmohammadi.
Shahmohammadi.
Yes.
Yes. So we are blessed with it's like the 2 bookends of not much surrounding just the flowing Song of Songs was written to describe hair that is showing up
We
around
are
this
both
table.
Persian, so
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
what are the odds?
It is pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome. Do your name? Okay, so I'm assuming like Susie for Zara. Does Zara mean something?
Zara
Were you
is
named that
actually
way?
the daughter of Muhammad.
Okay.
It means flower.
First of all, of course it does.
Obvious.
And if you were to notice, Susie is wearing flowers not only on her tats, on her arms, which, by the way, I don't know how we're going to focus, but also on her shirt today. And then Layla, what did Layla mean?
Layla means like dark night, like beauty of night kind of, right?
Oh, so fitting. And neither of the ladies have sleeves on today. So we're just going to throw that out.
Yeah.
If that
Sorry, I didn't mean to
encourages
pull
a
guns out.
YouTube
That's right.
audience, Seth Erre, you are welcome. Anyway, Layla, how are you? Tell us a little bit about your life.
I know.
What? That you're sleeveless? It's glorious. It's glorious. It's like your biceps are like my calves. If we were to rank them,
Third,
I'm
probably
sure.
third,
Yeah,
third
probably
best
third.
Working on it.
on staff.
All
Okay.
right, Layla, tell us. I mean, you've been on before, so this isn't new. But
Yeah.
just tell us, like, What's Layla do for fun?
What do I do for fun? Well, sometimes I play pickleball against you, Mike Erre, and I've yet
And win.
win.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
on Tuesdays, Thursdays,
Yeah.
Brentwood Sports Complex.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I need to come out and play with you pretty soon.
Well, you do. And
Except I don't get the invite always, so this is my.
well, yeah, because you keep winning. So why would we invite you?
That's true.
Jake Smith and I literally texted each other. Jake is totally athletic, big, kind of like me, and so we
Great calves.
Nope. Great beard. Yeah. But Timmons, yours is the dude. Come on.
Whatever.
Anyway, he texted me. He's like, "Let's go beat up some senior citizens today."
Oh my
in
God.
pickleball."
Oh, wow.
And then we lost 4 in a row.
No.
To senior citizens. It was glorious. It was like Jesus looked down and said,
Yep.
"Not today. Not today, friends." So pickleball. Yes.
Pickleball.
What else?
Well, I also am writing some music these days.
Yes,
which
she
is
is.
fun.
Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
whoa.
Gonna release that soon.
Ooh.
She has merch.
I have merch.
Merch? What kind of merch?
Just some T-shirts
Let's say.
that say my artist name, Lunalay.
What?
Yep.
What?
You have an artist name?
I have, yes,
Okay, what
I
is
have
it?
an artist- Lunalay.
Lunalay.
Yeah.
Just get it? The night, the beauty of the night. Luna.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah.
I like that interpretation. I hadn't
Okay.
even gone there.
And
Lunalay.
lay
Yeah.
means dark beauty.
Wow.
Yes. And Luna
So-
means of the moon.
These are my PR people over
Yeah.
Yes.
there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
bark at the moon.
We
Bark
planned
at
it
the
that way.
moon. Oh, no. My mom's maiden name is Luna.
Oh,
And so I thought it was a
Lunalay.
cool
That's a great
combination.
name.
First dance at my wedding with Steve and I was to Luna by Smashing Pumpkins.
I don't know if I've heard that song.
It's a great song.
That's
No.
really cool.
I really thought you were going to go with Lunalay, and I was like, she wasn't born.
Yeah.
Okay, so music,
Music,
guitar, singing,
pickleball.
pickleball.
Haven't entered into any calf competitions yet, but I'm thinking
someday.
about it. I'm thinking about it.
Someday, it's something to aspire to. What about you, Susie? You were highlighting some of the things you do for fun earlier off
Really?
the air. Yeah.
I don't know that I would categorize those things as what I do for fun.
Okay, what do you do, Susie Lind? I think the internet wants to know. What do you do for fun? You know, you study. You're at seminary. You're elding. You're
know.
pastoring. You're
a lot to
administrating.
do.
Momming.
You got
husbanding,
four
wifing.
boys.
Yeah.
Momming. Did you
For
say
fun?
husbanding?
Well, it was a different.
Wifing?
Wifing.
Yeah, I was trying to talk.
Yeah.
Wifing.
Non-gendered wifing.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping.
I cook and eat with my friends.
Yes.
That's my fun.
Oh.
And family.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I'm still
It is
waiting
so
on that
fun.
invite, so that must be how you feel.
Yeah.
And then Timothy, you don't
even
have
know.
time for fun.
I don't have time for
You don't
fun.
have time for fun anymore.
No.
You just pick out hats.
Just pick out hats.
Cool
I'm
ones.
giving hats.
Yeah. And what does that say about you? Cover that up.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm
Shots
just drawing.
fired.
I'm just drawing a conclusion. I never get offered hats.
Oh, then they're telling me to cover it up?
Yeah.
Let it shine.
So, Mike, what about you? What's one of your
What do I
things?
do for fun? Well, I lose to senior citizens, and I do calf raises.
Yes,
And
all
so-
day.
all day.
Do you do calf raises?
I'm right now. No, I've never have. Never have in my life. But I'm just right now doing calf raises. I think when you're a man of size, just walking counts as calf raises.
Right.
You know, I
Steps, every time you do steps,
Yep,
it's
just
like,
squatting. That's
Yeah.
it.
Speaking of squatting,
Yes. So, yeah, we
This
could totally
weekend.
flush the sermon down. We were talking
Yeah.
about husbands and wives.
yeah, and I thought it would be
Or-
really cool to have Layla here because we've had a lot of questions about what these texts mean for those
sure.
who are single.
Yeah.
And so, I thought that would be good to get
Yeah.
your feedback.
Excited to be here.
We did have a couple really good questions, but go ahead and do you want to give the summary?
I don't have to. Just go listen to it.
Tell them what, like the last 2 weeks, like the difference. Or whatever.
So yeah, first week we looked at the word submit.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean in the ancient world, and the fact that wives submit is an example of the greater principle of, hey, believers, church. And he's been arguing this the whole time in Ephesians.
Mm-hmm.
All the status distinctions that are of importance outside of the community are eradicated within it. So you're to relate to each other as siblings. And one of the things that was true of siblings in the kind of the biblical worldview is that the siblings looked out for each other, and they put the interests of each other and the family above their own personal interests. So Paul makes that point. Second week was he takes that explosive dynamic and he runs it through a household code, which back in the first century was a way of orienting the patriarch of a Roman household in a set of relationships between husband, wife, father, child, master, slave, to display power over them in different ways. So the husband was to treat the wife as if she were a lower social class. The father was to treat the child as if the father was the king and they were his subjects. The kids were to relate to each other as siblings in a democracy, and then obviously masters treated slaves as not property, or as property, not human. And so when Paul runs this submit thing through that code, the most amazing thing happens. He starts with addressing the most socially vulnerable person first, the wives, the children, the slaves, which gives them full humanity and dignity. And then he has things for the patriarch to do outside of just receiving. And so he's to love. He himself has a master. He's to not exasperate his kids. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But then we looked at the very specific instruction that the husband is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church. And how English has a whole bunch of connotations about what head means. Most of them, at least that I'm familiar with in religious contexts, have to do with authority or decision making or spiritual leader. And as you know, as Paul is wont to do, he really kind of inverts that and describes headship using the example of Jesus saving his church. But then he spells out what it means to save his church in a bunch of very feminine domestic chore metaphor. So the point we just wanted to make is you can't get gender specific roles for 21st century marriages out of a passage like this.
Right.
And so as long as the two in a marriage relationship, or however the household is, as long as there is equal humanity, reciprocity, and mutuality, and that power is kind of redefined according to Christ, it doesn't matter then who stays home, who does the dishes, who whatever. So that was the general point of all three. And the big question, of course, is, well, then where do single people fit in this? Does it, the church sort of overemphasize marriage and, with passages like this? And part of the answer we were trying to give, and I'm interested, Layla, in how this strikes you, is for Paul, he wasn't looking at a bunch of nuclear families. The nuclear family was never the goal for Paul. It was the church to live as a household of faith that would be made up of young and old, male, female, slave-free, different ethnicities, married, single. And all of those distinctions that carried weight outside would not carry the same sort of status or weight on the inside. Having said all of that, what were thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, besides, marriage seems pretty hard. Maybe it's not so appealing after all. No, I think the general summary of what you just shared is, insightful of what I've drawn of, it's not really so much about marriage, but it's, the dismantling of hierarchy. A question that I was kind of thinking after listening on Sunday was, marriage was this, means to the end for women to have, status and for them to be able to gain some sort of,
security.
Right. Yeah. And now, 21st century, that's not really so much the need or the means of marriage. And so I think that's kind of restructured. If that's not the emphasis, and if Paul's message really isn't so much, the meaning of your worth in marriage, but much more about, how are we relating to each other as children of God through this union, this specific union. Yeah. I think that's more of the message I've been receiving and hearing of not so much my identity as a single person, but my identity as a person who ascribes to image bearing, wanting to look like Jesus lifestyle. Totally. Which then informs not how I'm relating to other people that I'm dating or partnering with, but how I'm relating to others in the workplace or in the grocery store.
That's it.
Or it feels so much bigger than just this, it's become an illustration and much less of like, this is the code.
This is the way.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Layla, that's so good.
Look at you, Mike. You were clear.
Woohoo!
I don't know. She did stuff with that was brilliant. And I think that's the point. And one of the problems, besides generating gender ideals that conform to 1950s America, has been to elevate marriage as like the goal,
the finish line.
It's the finish line. It's what sanctifies you the most. It's like it's the place
It's
where
your
you're
highest
discipled.
calling.
Yes, well, yeah, you've said that, right? I never heard that. Being a father is the highest calling, but you heard that all over the place. And so, yes, it's not just that we've done harm to married people. We've done harm to a lot of single people too. By the way, we've reduced this down.
Right.
When you get the scope of what Paul's saying, generating from that like cosmic vision of a new humanity, generating from that, well, who does the laundry, is the dumbest practical application of what he's saying there. It's worth a conversation, and those of us who are in marriage relationships have to navigate those things. But to use that text to come up with those answers, I mean, Layla, I think you're so insightful to realize, nope, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah. It's much less like wife than it is woman, as like, what do I deserve to receive from men in my life, and what can I expect?
So good.
So that's just been great.
So
that's
good.
it. No, that's it. And
What
that
do
was
you
the point.
deserve to receive from the men in your life?
That's right.
So how would you articulate that?
Yeah, I think it's been clear, like the submissive nature of both man and wife, or woman and man, like it's the wanting to serve the other more than yourself.
Yeah.
And that has been helpful. I mean, I asked you a question a few weeks ago about like being in a leadership position in a church. Like, how do you then serve the people below you, or the nonprofit leaders in churches, or the CEOs? Like, what is your mindset or mentality when like you have to have a certain level of leadership that you're entitled to and exercise on, but you also need to keep the mindset of like humility and sacrifice and siblinghood, right? Like these are really hard to do in practice, so easy in theory.
Totally.
And it's been reassuring to hear you talk about it and reinforce the ideas, because I think it's when you like boil it down a bit and try to think about it in ways of acts of kindness, or showing ways, like small ways of choosing to do something for another instead of yourself, becomes a little bit more palatable and easy to understand, and not just focused on marriage. Like that's just been really helpful. As although we're reading a passage about that, like you've done a great job of extending it past that.
One of the things that you said that I thought was really interesting too, Layla, is the purpose of marriage was to form new kinship groups. So women their status was transferred from their father to their husband. And in the ancient world, there were, some of the teaching of Torah was like well advanced in its day. Now the purpose of marriage has become personal fulfillment. And so without, you can work and live, and you don't need a man, and you don't need to have kids. I mean, all that.
Yeah.
But when it's become now the purpose is personal fulfillment, we've made the opposite error.
Sure.
Right? Where marriage has now become this thing where, man, if it hints at duty, if it hints at like drudgery, if it hints at work, then it must not be fulfilling. And so there is this like dance to be done here about how you see and deserve to be treated by men, right? It's that self-reciprocal mutual dance that if you don't see, we're out. But there's also a sense of invitation that, well, Christ is faithful to his church, even when his church isn't. And there's just this calling up of a surrender to a covenant and a commitment that challenges, at least for me initially, was just the whole idea that marriage exists for my personal fulfillment.
Well, I think you can also take that to the other extreme that is still out there of marriage is meant to make you holy, not happy.
Right.
Because that's still a message that,
Yeah.
a lot of people live by and
Explore. Say more about that. So one view is marriage exists to protect, as an institution, to transfer women and create new kinship. Another view says marriage exists for personal fulfillment. Another view
is that marriage is like your highest calling. It's still the finish line if you have it, and it doesn't matter if you're happy or not. It doesn't matter if it's what difficulties come, it's meant to make you holy. It's the provision for your holiness.
And we would say part of that's true, right?
Part of it is true, but I think, I think that's what's kept a lot of people in abusive marriages, for one, at one extreme.
Yeah.
And then I think it also has absolved, I've seen it absolve people of the responsibility to actually work through their, all of their childhood stuff that they've brought into the marriage, their attachment stuff, their emotional connection with each other, their submission to one another, like, instead of like really working through some of those things in humility, I've seen people kind of latch on to the roles and that, like, well, this is the cross I'm supposed to bear, or this is just what it is, and I think, I noticed, at least, I began to notice about 10 years ago or so, more than that, 10 to 15 years ago or so, that there was like a generation of women coming up behind me who had no interest in getting married because of that view. So, because it just wasn't appealing anymore. And so then, people grow up, and now it kind of, there's the leaning towards the personal fulfillment thing. And then, people aren't getting married as much as they were. And so,
well, why would you?
There's no, there was a time where all I heard about marriage was how hard it is, and it's not to say that it's not difficult at times and it doesn't take work, but that's not all it is. And I think the marriage is to make you more holy than happy view tends to focus on how hard marriage is. So, and it is.
It's I didn't get that message clearly enough. What I got was the purity culture message, which was, it's prosperity gospel. If you do it right before marriage is going to be amazing.
Or don't do it right.
Even better.
I mean,
yes.
Waka waka.
Waka waka. So I totally get that. Timothy is someone who we look to for marriage advice often. I think one of the things that it's interesting. So we look at this Ephesians text, and we see we can trace through some of the damage that it's done. When you were sitting in the midst of all of this, I mean, what was striking you or hitting you
in this series?
Yeah, with just this little section, little subset.
Yeah, let me think about that.
If that's not a clear enough question, I can rephrase. Tim, what's your favorite movie?
Yeah. Action.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the first week when you were talking about the Greek, and honestly, that kind of stuff jacks me up in a bad way. That's the stuff that gets me. Makes it hard for like anybody. Makes it hard for me to go back to the Bible and keep reading. Like, I feel like I just have to do so much more work than I ever thought I did. And that's actually a beautiful thing. It's just not, there have been a few times when I'm like, I'll read something and I'm like, I don't know. And then I won't go do the work, but then it can just stop me from reading.
For sure.
And I think that's just a new lens that I need to see scripture with.
Yeah.
I mean, to really lean into the study of this one little passage that I'm now going, I don't know, how does that work? That was the first week.
Yeah, you don't have to go week by week.
I got my notes.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm curious about what it still means. So I know this was all for how the church should be relating to one another.
Correct.
Like that was the point of this. The point of this wasn't to have us even really have probably this conversation. But what is it? Is the male still the male still has their role?
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions that came in. It said, can you explain on the chart the part where husbands have the responsibility to make holy in relation to their wife? I ask because I feel like this goes into the traditional idea of the husband being the spiritual leader. And then there was another one that actually came in this morning that said, Could the assignment of household chores, washing, etc., to men who would normally never do those tasks also be a continuation of the example Jesus set for his disciples when he washed their feet at the Last Supper?
Absolutely.
Something only the lowliest servant would do.
Exactly. That one is absolutely insightful. Yes.
I almost feel like that second question answered the first, right? It's like, just in some sense, like, what duty does the husband have in whatever century this was written to, like, then, like, perform for his wife, right? Like, it's almost the more extreme example, at least from what I've gathered, of, like, the submission, or, like, this act of, like, I don't know.
Well, when I read the question, the first thing I thought about was the definition of holy is to set apart. Mm-hmm. So what role does the husband have in the setting apartness of his wife in that context?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Set apart for something, just like Israel was set apart for something.
I mean, the whole thrust of the passage is, husbands, yield yourself instead of power over and domination. Yield yourself to your wife so that she shares in your status, your stability, your shalom, your whatever. And so the idea of making washing is a Old Testament word for purifying. It's also, like we talked about, it's a laundry word, which is really interesting. The making her holy, I see what Paul's saying there. He's saying the same thing a bunch of different ways. So all the examples he's giving are making the same point. That if you want to know what it means to be a husband, now how this plays out can play out in a billion different ways. But if you want to know what it means to be a husband, look at how Christ loves the church and imitate that. And one of the things he does is that he serves, he blesses. And so we are to be, however faint, mirrors of the goodness, the kindness, the way the church feels chosen and delighted in, set apart so that there is no faithlessness. I mean, all of that. So I don't read a ton into the fact that he's making her holy. I don't think that's the emphasis of it. I think it's rather instead imitating the self-sacrificial love of Christ for his church, and that doesn't just end with, well, they're in the church now.
Right. I do think that there is maybe there could be an element in there of encouraging husbands to help their wives flourish, because in that culture, in that time, women did not flourish outside of their husbands. And here they are in this new creation dynamic, in this new creation community where they are given a place at the table, where Jesus did elevate them to the place of men. And so there have been times when the best thing for women has been when men open doors for them. I don't know why that's making me so emotional. Because a man who truly loves a woman, whether it's in marriage or in siblingship or anything, like, sees her and makes space for her to flourish, you know? And like, when a husband can do that for a wife, and in that time, Jesus is saying a husband can do this for his wife. He can set her apart for the glory of God. And he can give her space to flourish in a way that glorifies God, in a way that no one outside of this new creation dynamic sees or understands. Like, that's a really beautiful thing.
So beautiful.
That's so well said, Suze. There were defined spheres of life. The masculine sphere was public, the feminine sphere was private, the masculine sphere was high status, the feminine sphere was low status. And so when the way that Paul presents this is those spheres are totally disrupted. Not just in the marriage relationship, but in the church, right?
Right.
And the dignity there. I mean, Gambus. I quoted Gambus in the first service, not the second, but he just made the point. There's nothing in anything anywhere in the ancient world that looks like this.
Right.
Nobody would have been shocked by the, hey, wives, to your husbands as to the Lord. No one would have been shocked. Of course, that's what they're there for. The revolution would have been what he was saying to husbands. That's the dynamite.
Set your wife apart so that she can flourish to the glory of God.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah.
That's crazy town.
And
crazy.
in a crazy reverse, upside down kingdom logic kind of way, that's where we are most fulfilled. Right? That's the surprise, is to that self-expenditure for the sake of another's goodness and flourishing. That is the meaning of life.
Yeah. And it like transfers into even like leadership, like when like the best leaders are the ones who make way for other people to lead and empower other people to lead. And we talk a lot about succession planning, like the best leaders like allow other people to come up and lead and they pass on legacies of leadership. And what we see, I think, in a lot of spaces now are old people who don't want to get out of the way.
So Tim, speaking of that,
yeah.
No, I think that's it. And that's why this example, to your point, Layla, is just so magnificently broad that there isn't one sphere of life left out. So it's a dating thing, sure, but it's how you treat the person who's serving you. I mean, it's church is where we practice.
Right.
This is where we intentionally practice that.
It's so funny. When I was sitting there on Sunday, I caught my brain like creates visuals when I'm like learning something. It makes a picture. And I caught my brain picturing all of this taking place inside a confined space, and like we talk so much about the church isn't a place that you go to. It's the church is out there. It's everywhere, and that's something that like I firmly believe in. But it was so interesting to me that I caught my brain capturing it in like an enclosed space. Like here is a safe place where you can be all of these things as opposed to out there. But the directive to households, the small that actually affects the wide was really then profound to me. Like so today we think about making change in the world and in society, and we think that we have to make these big splashes and these have these large platforms and all that, but what the text is also saying to us, that in the small spaces of households, in whatever your household looks like, that's where you can create change that then overflows into all these other places in the world.
Absolutely.
So that was a interesting.
That's a great. It's almost like the church is a body, and there are two calf muscles. That represent the Word of God and the Spirit of God.
Spirit and truth.
Yes.
You should get that tattooed on your calf.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Spirit, truth. Spirit, truth. Spirit, truth. Or Spirit, truth. I think that's probably the more
third place.
Maybe that's what the calf needs. I don't know. Oh, I think this is so good. And these are the conversations that Paul is meaning to provoke. I mean, and that's and so back to your point, Tim. I love and I hate that when we explore the ways really good English translations have to make judgment calls.
Yeah.
That there's a disempowering, because that's the last thing we want to happen.
Right.
But there is an exegetical humility that we do need. So most of us interpret the Bible as exegetical narcissists. The Bible's about me, for me, and to me.
That was one of the questions too. How did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh.
Always that question.
Always that question. Totally. So the humility starts with coming across a difficult passage and saying, I don't know. Just like you did. I don't know what it means in context. I don't know if this is actually representing. And I know that's such a fine line there, because the thing that we were both raised in is, man, reading the Bible for yourself, like that's one of the most important spiritual disciplines in the history of all.
An hour a day in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, really is. And I want that. I wish more people marinated in the Gospels and had a notebook and they could write down questions or whatever. So there is a sense where we really have shrunken and narrowed down and hollowed out the ways in which Paul was capturing the movement of the kingdom in new creation. And yet we have incredible scholarship that presents the Bible to us. The only caution is if you get to really controversial passages where people are making applications that seem to go beyond the text, maybe we just put a question mark there to say, okay. So when you're in Genesis and it says, the man will rule over the wife her desire will be to control her husband. And you realize, okay, that's in 3 where things have gone bad.
Yeah.
And then you're hearing interpretations of later texts that seem to reinforce that. That's maybe when we just put a question mark there and say, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the way I treat Twitter or X. Unless I see something from multiple independent, credible sources, I don't trust it. When you come to the Bible, unless I see multiple credible independent sources, I just don't buy it. I just say, I'm going to park this over here and I'm open to what you're saying, but I don't know that I trust that yet.
Yeah.
And so I have to do that with news now, right? Because everything's so manipulated. And so it's kind of like, okay. So all that is to say, the goal of this little something was just to say, hey, maybe the applications that we've drawn about the domains of male, female, and the authority of the man that are kind of assumed in our subsection of Christianity, maybe they're not as clear in the original. And maybe Paul was getting at something much more profound. And so it's such a tough line to do. Because I'm not making this up. These are like the scholarship sitting behind this is ridiculous. It's so good. It's just not taught at the local level. It's taught in seminary, depending on the seminary you go to. But like Suzie can tell you, the scholarship on this is ridiculously good. It's just, I guess, I don't know. I guess preaching has become, like, I was just even, sorry, I'm now off on a track. Forgive me. Did you want to say something to me that?
No.
I have a question, or just more of like a thought, because I think as someone who listens to this as a single person who's been familiar with this like sort of theology of like a redemptive view of women in the story arc of the Bible, but also in relationship, like there's a really great book called Making a Biblical Womanhood. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Beth Allison.
Yeah, she proposes this idea that like, what if the patriarchy that exists outside of this world is sin, and we are meant to live a countercultural approach to this thing that is sinful and
Beth Allison Barr,
and
ladies and gentlemen.
Awesome.
Amazing. But I hear that and I'm like, okay, I'm on board. But I'm thinking of the married couples in the room who are sitting next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, maybe have practiced or adhered to something that they were told at one time is for your betterment.
Yeah.
Like, I hear the men in the room asking questions of like, but like, how do I detach from this thing that I've been meant to identify myself as all of my life, you know? Totally. And that's where I'm like, how does one walk away from that? And you made mention of it, I think at the last, like one of your messages was just like, I'm thinking about the people who are dealing with the repercussions of kind of this new framework in their marriages. And how do you walk away from this knowing that maybe you had a belief that's different than what you know now? Yeah. When you already are married, when you have relationships that you can't kind of just like,
and you have hurt and histories and cemented patterns of relating.
Right.
Steve and I taught biblical manhood and womanhood classes.
I'm just, Suzie was telling me this on Sunday.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And some of it was good, but like, it just.
This is where the way we do church, Layla, hurts more than it helps.
Yeah.
Because none of this was meant to be stirred up in a 30-minute talk with 20 minutes of music and then good luck.
Yeah.
Right? This was supposed to be sustained, in-depth community that's helping and listening. And I almost feel like it's malpractice.
It also wasn't meant to be a corrective measure in counseling.
Right. But I almost feel like it's malpractice to stir some of this up and then just say, hey, good luck, guys.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I think the dilemma, though, and Cam brought it up in the questions, was like, okay, I agree with everything you're saying. I now see it this way. I just don't know how to function in a different way because I was completely formed into being this and being this way and thinking this way. You know?
I think your illustrations were great with that, though. Yeah. In putting it in real life, real time, hey, this is what I'm choosing. I mean, if love is a daily choosing, so is growing and so is maturing and doing the next right thing.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, everything's off. We do it. We're so this way.
Yeah.
That it's just this is a day I get to choose.
Yeah.
Well, you simplified
serve.
it by asking the question or telling us that you asked Justina, how can I be a good husband today?
Oh, and she always has ideas. There's never been I don't know.
She doesn't say, show me your calves.
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Spirit, fruit.
Just walk around in shorts today, honey.
Yeah.
Never heard that.
Yeah.
It's spirit of truth. Go. It took me a second. I got there. No. And there, I mean, like I said, both Brad and I come from Brad's my brother, traditionally regimented social spheres, and he married a doctor and stays at home with the kids. So we've had a lot of unlearning, and so much of it for me was just attentiveness. It just never occurred. And so that's, and so I feel for the poor husbands who just inherited, and wives that inherited this way of sort of looking at things and where do we go. So
it was so funny. I was talking to my kids the other day about the trad wife movement. Have you heard about this?
Oh yeah.
It's like a whole movement of traditional.
This is what Susie does for fun.
Yeah,
Don't let her. Don't let her.
I got you now. Yeah.
Like they wear the long dresses and they homestead and they do all the things.
Like Hillary.
And they want to.
Yeah.
So my kids had not heard about that yet. So I was talking to them about it, and one of my sons, I'll leave his name off the air, but he works super hard. He has a great job. He's smart. He's he's all the things, right? But I was telling him this, and he's like, no, low key, I kind of want to be a trad wife. And I thought it was so great that he could just say that actually sounds like fun, and without like having any shame about it,
It's good parenting.
It's good parenting.
Yeah.
I know.
And if homesteading involves calves, then
it's
we're
everything.
Back. And scene.
Yeah.
For me, the end, I think you asked me, what do I think about this whole past 3 weeks? And I think what I've taken away is just that if two people, which is really the whole community, but just in this illustration, you've got two people who have some kind of role somewhere. I don't even know how the man and female role works, but if they're both submitting to one another, like that's like perfection. And then if the church is doing that, like that's so beautiful. Yeah. That is such a beautiful way that if the kingdom worked like that, the world would see a really different thing.
Oh my goodness. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, Tim.
Yeah.
Good job, bud. Well, guys,
Swish.
Layla.
Thanks for being with us,
Thanks,
Layla.
Lunalay.
Thank you, guys.
So what? Do you have a middle name?
Hannah is my middle name. Hannah.
Layla, Hannah,
Shahmohammadi.
Perfect, Mike. You just gotta say it with gusto.
I know, but I'm Layla, Hannah, Shahmohammadi. What is it?
Shama.
Hamadi.
Yeah.
Shahmohammadi.
Yes.
Shama.
Yeah.
Hamadi.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what happens when you
This
grow up in
is
Ohio with like Tim and Steve.
Calves.
Yeah.
Kid Calves. Oh,
Thanks
so
for
good.
trying.
4-H.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Journey Now. If for some bizarre reason you liked it, help us spread the word by leaving a review and sharing it on your socials. Journey Now is a production of Journey Church in Brentwood, Tennessee. Edwin Rivera III produces the show and fixes all the guest slurping, gum chewing, coughing, and other annoying sounds. Randy Hansen provides technical assistance even though he denies it. Grant Opperman edits Journey Now and intervenes when necessary to tell the crew that you can't say that. Special shout out to dear listener Brad Erre and dear YouTube watcher Seth Erre. If there's anyone else who makes it through each week, we're so sorry, and thanks to you too.